our journey from the infinite to the infinite. Even with all of our modern understanding, 97% of what makes up the realm is still unknown to us. The vast majority of impersonal truth is still solidly in the theoretical and metaphysical sphere. Fortunately, we live in a day and age when we know enough to be able to put together an outline of what we're doing here. We do this by describing the realm in terms of 9 jumps of functionality. To begin this journey, we make the observation that the manifest realm is finite. This means that everything has limits and bounds. There is only so much energy, matter, and time available. Space is expanding, yet that expansion tells us there's a kind of boundary to the realm itself. As the realm is finite, it means only so much is possible. There are limits and rules that are in place, and we discover these rules and call them physics. But where did it all come from? What's outside if we are inside? To answer this, imagine for a moment a place that was truly infinite, a kind of existence in which everything is possible and none of the bounds we have here apply. For now, this only exists as a mathematical construct. This can be described by its traits such as infinity plus anything is also infinity. It's the same as multiplying anything times 0. Yet it's the ability to go from nothing to something that makes everything possible. In this highly theoretical place, 2 basic things would be true. Not all infinities are the same. The finite and the infinite are not compatible. To understand multiple infinities, imagine an infinite number line made of positive whole numbers, and then an infinite number line made of negative numbers. Then between each whole number, say 1 and 2, there is a possibility of a number with infinite decimal places. We can conceive of different sets of infinity, which then necessitates a set of all sets of infinity. The point is that within an infinity there are greater and lesser complexities that nevertheless contain infinity. Each is different and equal. In this imaginary place, change and development of a type are still possible, leading to the second characteristic. Infinity and finite are not compatible. The easy example of this is trying to divide by 0. It's not possible. 0 is a placeholder for infinity. If a division or any finite attribute was introduced, it would collapse into a measurable finite space. To create a division in infinity would be to destroy it. It simply ceases to exist. Therefore, in the physics of this infinite place, one rule would be that anything that becomes finite would then become its own space, connected but separate from the infinite. Much like a wave on the ocean, a pocket realm would appear. The realm would begin as a kind of seed, where the seed would contain an algorithm that would generate the realm and set its course from beginning to end. This is a way of conceptualizing the manifest realm we live in, a finite space drawn out of the infinite. Our realm began as a state of non-separation. Non-separation, called by us love, is a force that is the opening and closing of the realm, the door to the infinite beyond. The force of awareness caused ripples in the smoothness of non-separation, generating energy and making the realm compact and hot. The first things we were able to detect are waves of energy. These waves are self-perpetuating and contain information, energy, and function. The information in a wave are its properties of amplitude, frequency, wavelength, and speed. The energy carried by the waves are the result of the frequency and how close the waves are together. The total function of a wave is all the interactions that are possible. The function also carries with it the probability that such an interaction will occur. Waves have the characteristic of soft boundaries, meaning they flow into one another as opposed to bouncing off one another. They can also travel quickly over long distances in the right conditions. From this beginning, we can see that everything starts as waves containing energy, information, and function. Wave energy is the most fundamental physical property of the realm. Everything we experience comes from the properties inherent in wave energy. This means that when we begin to address the progression and outcome of the realm, it will be in terms of energy, information, and function carried on the wave. The change from pure singularity to hot waves is the first jump in function. A jump in function is where the change dramatically increases what is possible and the probability of it happening. The information contained after the jump becomes a magnitude more complex, and the energy pattern takes on additional emergent properties. Emergent properties occur when components work together and are able to do things that any individual component cannot. For instance, an ant colony, a single ant cannot do much on its own. Yet together they can build a structure and move large amounts of food. These jumps in function and emergent properties begin to tell the story of the outcome of the realm. Because waves form as a consequence of the force of awareness, all waves can exhibit the properties of particle under the right circumstances. It does this by giving the wave spin. A wave may spin in such a way as to maintain its particle properties. These waves manifest as electrons, neutrons, and proton particles in atoms. Waves with different kinds of spin are seen to produce various effects such as strong and weak nuclear force, as well as mass. The particles we experience as matter manifest as stationary and solid. This is because the particles have property of having strong boundaries, meaning the particles can bounce off of them. Particles typically clump together and generate gravitational pull. In progressing from wave to particle, we observe a striking phenomenon. Particles sustain greater function than waves. Particles are the second jump in function. By smashing together and ripping apart, particles have greater inherent possibility than waves. As the material aspect of the realm progressed, greater complexity emerged. Waves and particles combined into materials of many sorts. These particles and waves acted in a straightforward way. They were constantly being pulled back to the state of the original singularity. There are two ways to accomplish this: to pull everything into one place, as with gravity into black holes. The second is to spread things out as much as possible to the point where conditions generating time and space disappear. Since time and space are no longer present, we end up with the same properties of a singularity. This second property is observed as entropy. Entropy is a gradual decline into disorder in a closed system. That's why things fall apart all by themselves, and it takes work to put things in order. This is important because of what it tells us about energy and life. As the realm progressed, something quite extraordinary happened. Matter, probably in the form of gases, began to condense. The pull towards singularity by means of the force of gravity generated the first stars. Those stars began a process in opposition to entropy called negentropy. It means things are becoming more in order. They created order in terms of organization, structure, and function, the opposite of randomness or chaos. These early stars made possible the emergence of the realm we see today. The first stars are the third jump in function. Everything from solar systems to galaxies, black holes, all the stars we see today, along with all the planets, came as a result of the first stars. Their death seeded the realm with heavy metals that made our sun possible. As the realm formed, the stars in the large-scale structures lit up space. Stars provide constant heat in a realm that was quickly cooling. Planets that circle these stars would now have places where heat energy would come and go in rotations. Planets themselves may have hot cores that release heat onto the surface of the planet. Places where energy is constantly exchanged are places where function is maximized. In this fluctuation, the energy matter has the possibility of storing and releasing energy in new ways. That constant shift allows the possibility of interactions and combinations between molecules. This is why the earliest forms of life were found near hydrothermal vents. It is thought that long strands of molecules formed and eventually generated structures that began to self-replicate. These molecules would store information, replicate, and advance according to survival. This process eventually led to the first microorganisms. This is our very best guess of what the starting point of evolutionary life on Earth would have looked like. What is essential here is even in the most simple of microbes, there is more function than in a supermassive black hole, more possibility than the sun and planet that gave it birth. This is because life, at its earliest form, has an energy pattern that can store and replicate information in response to environment. Nothing else in the realm can do this. That ability means that its potential is enormous, even in comparison to the biggest inanimate objects. The sun is endlessly pouring its energy into the solar system. It has no choice as how to proceed. It cannot learn or adapt or change environments. Regardless of how it came to be, life is the fourth jump in function. Life, fundamentally, is about the use of energy. Life occurs as a system that stores energy in such a way as to make it available for use. This storing and releasing of energy in order to adapt to its environment makes life as we experience it possible. At the simplest level, all the system is trying to do is reproduce itself to sustain its energy. Why? Because the energy state of life increases its potential. It increases its probability. With evolutionary adaptation comes new functionality translating into the ability to survive. Something a bit more subtle is going on as well. When we look for the source of consciousness in humans, we do not find it directly in the body. There is nothing in the brain we can point to that's obviously producing self-awareness. Our best guess currently is that consciousness is an energy pattern. That energy pattern can be aware of and influence the workings of the mind and body. The energy pattern that is us did not come out of nowhere. When we work with animals such as our pets, it's obvious that they are thinking and have some awareness of self. If that's the case, some of this energy pattern of life is present even in more simple forms. Just how far back does this energy pattern of consciousness go? Does it go all the way back to the earliest forms of life on the planet? At present, we cannot answer this for certain. However, it's not unreasonable to conclude that energy pattern that makes us conscious is available in all life. What we may be looking at are differences in complexity and type. The earliest obvious evidence for the energy pattern of awareness is when microbes begin to move. The energy within the microbe is making decisions and directing the movement. The energy and operation of the cell exceeds what can be explained by simple chemical reactions. It is a pattern of self-determination at the smallest scale. Why would we think this? Experiments have shown that monkeys fitted with equipment that respond to brain activity can learn to control extra arms and computer displays. Essentially, the mind can adapt to extensions of the body. The opposite is also true. Animals that suffer physical disabilities can adapt and thrive in the right conditions. In addition, we look at the most simple of animals, such as insects, and we eventually find they are doing extremely complex activities. What we can conclude is that general awareness fits the container it's in. Awareness needs an embodied experience to operate. The body determines the parameters, such as scale and capability, that the awareness works within. It is the energy pattern of general awareness that is essential, not necessarily the kind of body. In animal life that moves, we can observe three aspects of living. first is the energy pattern of awareness along with memory and information processing. We can call it software. The software of an animal has the ability to direct the body of the animal to greater or lesser degrees. We can see this as the advancement of the information aspect of wave energy. The second aspect is the body itself. Bodies are made of materials that in and of themselves have limited ability. What makes it alive is the intake and exchange of energy that allows work to be done in many forms. That ability to work centers on strategies for the survival of the species. The software that animates the body gives it its third aspect, function. Animals that explore their environments to attain their needs of survival. The ability to actively change environments and adapt to them increases its function. We can see the properties of wave energy, information, energy, and function manifesting as software, body, and increased ability. The evolution of life on Earth is not a straightforward progression. Not only does the environment change over millions of years, but life has gone through periodic extinction events. We have fossil records of at least 5 catastrophic events that wiped out 75% or more of all life on Earth. This means that 99% of all life on Earth has gone extinct. These extinction events had a profound effect on the outcome of life. In terms of animal life, what survives are the most adaptive animals. Extinction events favor animals that are generalists in ability as opposed to specialists. If all of your adaptations are to fill a particular ecological niche, when that niche collapses, you go extinct. Animals who are flexible in behavior and alter their environments are more likely to survive. The ability to survive using behavior requires better software and better processing of information, i.e., smarter animals. What we are saying is that highly intelligent life of some kind, such as ourselves, is an inevitable outcome of evolutionary forces. The advancement from animal to human is the fifth jump in function. Clearly, something happened that generated a level of software development that made tool-wielding primates the dominant life on Earth. That story is long and involved, and will be told in another session. What is most important here is to observe that the software component of life developed greater self-awareness. Our software has far greater control over the body than any other form of life we have observed. When we observe people, it looks like the body and the software we call mind are evenly matched. For some, the body functions are dominant. We can pursue pleasure above all other things, leading lives in pursuit of ease, belonging, and sexual fulfillment, all of which comes down to chasing dopamine response in the body. On the other hand, humans can grow the ability to rule over the body. With mental discipline, we can starve ourselves even to death. Some sit and meditate unmoving for days, weeks, and possibly longer. Every Olympics, we witness those who are pushing the human body to new limits. These, along with many other aspects of human activity, show that the energy that is the software of the mind can exact a high level of control over the body. At present, the body and mind seem evenly matched. What are we supposed to do with this evenly matched existence? What should we do with ourselves, and how do we find fulfillment and happiness? These are stories in and of themselves as well, and are covered in another part of the Introduction to Zosram. In general, all of us acquire information and seek to generate happiness, survival, and the continuation of our species. We do this not out of any particular story, but out of the relationship to our body and our environment. The story we live in, be it secular, religious, or scientific, are our individual attempts to successfully navigate those relationships. In the end, if humanity will successfully evolve toward the next jump in function, we will need to learn to generate loving connection between all people and successfully manage our environment. We are limited only by our biology, technology, and stories. Many of our stories involve some idea of what comes next for humans. What these stories have in common is a dramatic change. The sixth jump in function we call new humans. Our attempt at describing future evolution is best described as informed speculation. Whatever the sixth jump in function looks like, it will be as dramatic as a change from animal to human. To animals, we are magical creatures. They are unable to comprehend how we operate. We ourselves are constantly trying to figure out how we operate. New humans will be superior to us in a similar way. If the trend holds, then the software of the new humans will be much more efficient and effective. The control over the material aspect will be magic to us. Since we are talking primarily about a software update, it's unclear how much of the body will change. It is reasonable to assume the change will be relatively small. We can imagine new humans with the ability to know themselves at the deepest level from birth, to be able to turn on and off pleasure, possibly, to have capacity for emotions that we cannot relate to. They may be able to communicate in ways and speeds that we simply cannot. Other aspects may be we consider downright metaphysical. What would it be like if little children could access the internet with their mind, or immediately have mind-to-mind connection with a network of all other new humans? Could it be that the information hardware we have created today becomes available at birth as a part of their embodied experience? What happens to a person when they are connected to all other people along with a million-fold increase in mental bandwidth? What then are the limits to the function of the human body? Consider the fact that information is carried on all waves. What if our body could then learn to read the information on waves, or manipulate the wave itself by extending our sense of selfhood? What else becomes possible? With enough control over a body and its energy, death as we know it would end. When this matures, another jump in function becomes possible. The seventh jump is to planetary bodies is even harder to describe. It is as far out of our experience as is the starting point of life from inanimate matter. What happens when the energy pattern that is our awareness learns to operate within any material construct? What if we can directly use the energy of solar systems and black holes to generate information and storing capabilities and processing capabilities? Right now, we give meaning to electrical signals in our bodies and in hardwares of computers. The zeros and ones in the computer have no meaning in and of themselves. To be useful, we have to manipulate them and then give them meaning. The same is true of electrical signals in the mind and the body. When we observe them from the outside, they are nothing special. But when attention is applied, we attribute meaning to the signals, and we end up thinking. What happens when we do the same thing with any quantum state that spins as a particle? Anything from asteroids to planets could be used as memory. The stars themselves or black holes at the center of the galaxy could be a processing unit. The best analogy we can see is that of living planets. Living solar system, galaxies, and clusters of galaxies. Living not in any human way, but in ways we can scarcely comprehend. If we think this is strange, then consider this. In and on every person, there are about 39 trillion microbes. Just the bacteria content alone are found in skin, in the nose, mouth, and especially the gut. You yourself are a microbiome, a kind of planet for the microbes living and dying within you. That microbe is life, but cannot comprehend you. The cognitive distance between us and that of the seventh leap is similarly far. The natural progression of the seventh leap is to go into the eighth, the formless mind, where the individual has the capacity to be aware of the entirety of the realm at every level, to communicate in ways that are well beyond us. This would be unity at its fullest. love and awareness would at last reach its limits. We will have returned to the singularity by means of awareness and love. It would be a fully conscious realm that is us, individually and collectively. It may seem fantastic, yet it is the logical conclusion to the evolutionary process. In this state, time and space are likely just playthings. At that point, what would we spend our awareness on? What is left except the endless beauty of possibility? When we have mastered all energy and matter, only art is left. This is why God is an artist and is the keeper of all possibility. At this stage, the realm becomes a massive neural net where we play as gods. Now, at last, we come to the end of the realm. The ninth step is the return to the infinite. This is the great transcendental object at the end of time, to reunite with the infinite source that gave us birth. A pocket realm child returning to our mother having all grown up. We will transcend from the finite back to the infinite, bringing with us greater capacity. The glory and magnitude of this can leave us with an overwhelming sense of awe and bewilderment. To get a grip on what this means for us now, we need to understand that we are not something separate from the infinite. We are not separate from our source. We are that source, the root of all being. If there's anything we can be sure of, it is that we have an existence and that we are at the center of it. It is possible for each of us because everything that is infinite is equal and we are all infinite. We are all equally the center of the existence. This may seem strange and irrational, yet it is the most true expression of our interaction with being. There is no center of the universe outside of our own experience. From the impersonal view, life is about moving evolution forward. We do that most effectively when we open ourselves to our own infinite source of being. Overcoming the illusion of separation prepares us to be reunited with the infinite source. However and whenever we touch the wonder of the universe, we see ourselves reflected back to us. Our curiosity will drive us to understand more, to connect more, to meet the limitless potential with maximum effort. We do this in whatever circumstance we find ourselves, and because there is nothing that is other than us, other than the infinite source staring back at us at every moment of every day. When we seek to understand the workings of the manifest realm, we are in truth seeking the lessons that have been left there by the process that gave us life, every bit of which leads us back to the mystery of being that is embedded in the impersonal truth. Without the impersonal truth and its box of wonders, the mystery of being would not be possible. We could not pursue superpersonal truth. Therefore, we give thanks and stand in awe at the grand narrative that is playing out before us.